Avoidants have a tendency to act strange after a breakup. First, they go ice cold. They act like you don't matter to them at all, like you never really mattered. It starts to feel like the relationship was all in your head. So when they show up a month or two later acting friendly, it's very confusing. They tell you that they miss you, that they've been thinking about you, and then they hit you with it. They really just want to be your friend. So let's talk about why your avoidant ex says they want to be your friend, what they're really after, and what you should do next. Hi guys, I of course am Brad Browning, and I've been helping people get back with their exes for over 15 years now, so I've had a lot of experience with avoidance. And one of my biggest lessons has been how their avoidant behavior makes breakups so much worse, at least at first. But over time, it actually often makes it easier to get them back. See, a lot of people think that an avoidant is somebody who pushes other people away. But what they're avoiding isn't you, it's their feelings. People, and romantic partners more specifically, are avoided because they trigger overwhelming feelings in the avoidant. And while avoidance can help prevent conflict and stress in the short term, the major side effect is that it interferes with very important emotional processes. To get over a breakup, you really need to face your feelings, sort out what went wrong, and accept the truth about it. But avoidants fail to do this, and so the breakup stays in their mind like an itch that they just can't scratch. And that is really why your ex is acting this way. They went cold in an attempt to protect themselves from the feelings surrounding the breakup. And when that feeling came back, they decided to reach out to you in an attempt to solve the problem. And they do miss you, but they still look at the relationship and you with a lot of anxiety. So they aren't willing to just be honest about their feelings. So instead, they make an offer of friendship. And here's why this idea appeals to them. Firstly, avoidants enjoy distance. Now, some people see avoidants as these cold, emotionless robots who just want to live their lives alone. But that really isn't true. If it were, they wouldn't have sought out a relationship with you in the first place. What they're really after is distance. See, in their ideal setup, they have access to you whenever they want for comfort, for intimacy, and for connection, but without having to risk anything. And friendship is a great way for them to achieve this. If you've ever had a friendship with an ex, you know that it's not the same as your other friendships. It's rarely truly platonic. There's always that energy there, that spark between the two of you. You have knowledge of one another, and of course, with knowledge comes intimacy. And that is really what they're after, even if it never goes anywhere. Which brings us to another thing that they also like about being friends with you. And that is that avoidants prefer potential connection to actual connection. So we've talked about how true solitude isn't the real goal of an avoidant. They want connection, but when they actually get it, it scares them. They're like a dog chasing a car. They're going to be much happier running down the street barking than actually hanging onto that bumper by their teeth. And while avoidants tend to lack self-knowledge, they can see this, at least on some level. And that's why they kept you at a distance during the relationship. That's also why they pushed you away after the breakup. And that's why they now want to be your friend rather than something more. And while it may be just as frustrating for them as it is for you, it seems preferable to taking the risks that come with an actual connection. And it has other benefits as well. Now, avoidants love having options. So if we accept that avoidance is a strategy to prevent closeness as a way to avoid discomfort, then it makes sense that avoidants love having more than one option available to them. And this is a strategy that's actually employed by many people in modern dating. If you don't get too close, then you won't get hurt. And if you keep your options open, you can never get too close to one person. Now, of course, we all know that this doesn't actually work in the real world. It just leads to a bunch of complicated entanglements and probably broken hearts. But again, people aren't consciously deciding on this strategy. Their subconscious mind is calling the shots and it's leading them down this path. So your avoidant will keep you around as just a friend, even though they know that both of you are wondering if it's maybe going to lead to something else, something more. And because the two of you are both pretending that this is just friendship, then they're free and clear to pursue other people. They may have other romantically charged friendships like yours, or they may even be actively dating. But chances are they're not going to bring those things up so that they can keep the illusion alive. Now, on paper, they're not doing anything wrong, but they know that if they were to be truly transparent with you, you probably wouldn't be happy. So they keep it to themselves. Which brings us to the next item, and that is that avoidants are afraid to be honest about their feelings. See, avoidants have learned that sharing their feelings leads to conversations that they don't know how to navigate. Conversations that bring up emotions that they don't want to deal with. So they keep their feelings to themselves. So they may be madly in love with you. They might feel like they can't live without you. They might want to marry you on the spot and spend the rest of their life with you. But a part of them has decided that opening up and being rejected by you would be so bad that it's just not worth the risk. And that part is the one that's calling the shots for them. Now, their feelings for you are probably not that extreme, but you really don't even know. They probably don't even know. Remember, avoidants hide from their feelings. So they may be having all these powerful feelings and just pushing them down to avoid facing the truth. And this means they'll be drawn to you, but they won't be exactly sure why. And so they'll opt for friendship over something more formalized so that they can explore these feelings without making a commitment that they won't be able to take back. Now, if you want to connect with your avoidant ex beyond just friendship, you're going to need more information. So please go to breakupbrad.com/quiz to get the truth about your ex's feelings. The quiz is free, it takes less than 5 minutes, and it will give you some of the answers that you're actually looking for. Again, take it now or after the video at breakupbrad.com/quiz. All right, and next up, you need to know that avoidants have human needs. Just like the rest of us, avoidants don't really want to be alone. They want people around them to share their life with. They want sex, they want intimacy, they want friendship, and they're not exactly sure how to go about getting it. So really, they are human just like the rest of us. So don't go and assume that what your avoidant ex wants is super clear-cut and simple. Maybe they want you back, maybe they just want to truly be purely platonic friends, but typically the answer lies somewhere in the middle and it's constantly shifting. Now, I know that isn't satisfying to hear, but for the most part, it is true. So what can you do about it? How can you get more from them than just friendship? Now, I know that it's tempting. I know that you think that it's better than nothing. And if you become their friend, then they're going to see all that you bring to the table and they'll end up wanting you back. But unfortunately, in reality, often the opposite is true. By being friends with your avoidant ex, you're actually giving them exactly what they want. And that's just going to help them get over you and move on to someone new. Because remember, they want to create this relationship with built-in distance so that they can have access to you on their terms without having to risk anything. They want that sexual tension and the flirting that goes nowhere. They want that intimacy without putting any constraints on their freedom. So why would they feel any pressure to reconnect with you in a romantic relationship when they're already getting everything they think they want? And there's another aspect to it as well. You're actually helping them get over you by being their friend. Because one of the things that avoidants struggle with is feeling like they hurt the other person by ending the relationship and feeling like they have some issue that's getting in between them and connecting with others. But by spending time with them as friends, you're showing them that one, there are no hard feelings and so nothing to feel guilty about. And two, there's nothing wrong with them, or they wouldn't have this attractive, interesting person wanting to be their friend after the breakup. And since, avoidance doesn't actually work, this friendship is going to be ultimately unsatisfying to them. Because they actually crave that deeper emotional connection, they're going to find that something's missing. In their mind, this will just confirm that the spark is gone, and so they'll feel free to move on to somebody new. So if you can't be friends, then what should be your path forward? What should you actually say to your avoidant ex? Well, ideally, you shouldn't respond by just saying, no, let's not be friends. But you do want to make your intentions clear without starting conflict and without pushing them away. So hold out for them to make a more genuine offer without any word of friendship attached. If they're really not getting the message and they keep bringing up friendship, then you might need to make it, more explicit. Something like, I don't know if you and I could ever be really just friends, but I'd love to see you. Now this can be really intense for an avoidant, but sometimes you have to just cut to the chase to stop them from putting you in a box. So now the question becomes, how do you avoid just naturally slipping into friendship with your ex? I mean, when two people hang out again and again, then it can be easy to end up with more of a friend vibe. So I recommend that you avoid friendship style activities like, giving them a ride to the airport or feeding their cat when they're out of town or helping them with their dating profile. I also think that, hanging out with a group is another easy way to slip into friend mode. So instead, push for dinner, push for drinks, anything that feels more like a date. And something that comes up a lot when it comes to being friends with an ex is physical intimacy. Should you sleep with them to avoid falling into the friend zone? Now that one actually really depends on your particular situation, because it may just put you into a friends with benefits situation. And I assume that sex isn't your only goal here. You probably want a real romantic commitment, real romantic connection, a partnership. Now, there is a way to achieve all of this, but we don't have time to talk about it here. So instead, please check out my recent video about how to win back an avoidant ex. It's full of my very best advice, and it's definitely going to put you in the right path. You can find that video here in the corner or in the description below. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you now understand what it means to be friends with an avoidant ex and why it is not going to help you get them back. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I promise I read and respond to as many as I possibly can. I do prioritize questions for my subscribers, so please don't forget to subscribe and like the video as well because it really helps me out. Best of luck, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.